So my name is Marion Shaw. This is So You Have a Data Strategy. That don't impress me much. Some of you in here are not old enough to get that reference. Google Shania Twain when you get out. So I wanted to talk about this because, you know, everybody talks about your first 100 days, your data strategy. So this is what I wanted to talk about. So you've got a data strategy. Yay! You know, you've talked to the business, you've created a vision, you've got a plan, you've presented it to the exec, you've got it past the board, you've got an approval to go, and you think, my job here is done. No, I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, it's not. So the other thing we didn't advertise is this is slightly interactive. So if you're not already standing up, can you stand up? If you are standing up, can you put your hand up? So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, right? If the answer is not 100% yes, absolutely, sit back down again. Okay, so does your data strategy underpin your business strategy? Do you know what it is? Oh, okay. Does your data strategy drive towards the business goals? Okay. Does it resonate with the business? Do they get it? Do they get it? Okay. Have you got an approved budget for everything? Darren? I know you don't. Have you got a schedule and a resource map? Anybody still with me? Okay. Have you got buy-in from the whole business? Okay, you can all stay because you need to hear this. So if anyone was left standing or with their hand up, I would have said, you don't need to listen to this rubbish, just leave. You've already got it sorted. So these are the things that we need to worry about after we build our data strategy, right? So I've got it in 6 sections here, okay? So buy-in and support, funding, very important, culture and knowledge, even more important, resources, you need to have someone to do the work. Nobody in their right mind lets me engineer anything anymore. You need to transform, and it needs to be done continuously, right? So these are the 6 things I'm going to go through. I'm going to run through them quite quickly so that we have some time for questions. So funding, buy-in and support. Yep. Really, really, really important, right? You can write the best data strategy in the world. It can be marvelous. It can hit all the boxes. But if people don't buy in and you don't have executive support, you're running out of, you're really onto nothing. Now, when I say right level of sponsorship, it doesn't have to be the CEO, right? It'd be great if it was, but it doesn't have to be. It has to be the executives that can move those mountains for you. And it depends on where you sit in the business, right? So it doesn't necessarily, the CEO would be great. The chairman of the board would be even better. But you need someone that's going to advocate for you, someone who's going to say, yes, we've got it, we get it, we're going to do it. So you might need a couple of sponsors, you might not need the one, right? You need to build those relationships with the business. It's vitally important because at the end of the day, as data people, we do not own the data. If anyone here thinks we do, anybody? No? Good answer. Right. If anybody here thinks we do, you're in the wrong job, right? We don't own the data. We don't do things with the data. We provide it, we give it to them, we help them make the decisions. But the business themselves, they make the decisions. So you need to build those relationships because they're going to tell you what they want done. So I'm in a new job. My new team is here somewhere. I'm not going to embarrass them just yet, later. And I'm only in there 3 weeks. I've never been in this industry before. I haven't got a clue. If anybody asks me what I do, I now tell them I'm a drug dealer because we're in pharmaceuticals. But I don't know what we do with that data. It's not my job. It's their job. My job is to get it to them, right? So I need to build those relationships. You need to develop advocates across the business. You need people to stand up for you and tell people how good it is working with the data team. The data team did this and we're now able to do the other. And you need to create a data-driven culture. This is something, some of you know me quite well, this is something I'm really passionate about. It is really important to get that culture moving because you can build the best data lake in the world with the best visualization platform. And if nobody uses it, you've wasted your time and your money, okay? And then one thing I'm very passionate about is promote your team, right? So we all know how data people love to stand up on stage and tell everyone how brilliant they are. Yeah, you're all kind of going, As a data leader, you do need to do that. You need to tell people about the great things your team are doing, and you need to develop them so they can develop with you. Because as you've seen today, anyone that was here last year, there's a heap of companies here this year that didn't exist last year. They're all new, right? It'll happen again next year. People will be gone. The landscape is moving so quickly. You have to help your team move with you. So buy-in and support, you have to get that right. Funding, vitally important, Darren. I'm calling him out because he used to work with me. So you need funding and you need the budget responsibility to get done what you need to get done, right? Data is not cheap, right? Storage might be a little bit cheap at the minute, but data itself is not cheap. By the time you're finished putting everything in, it's not cheap. You need the funding, you need the responsibility to do it. But in order to keep that funding, you need to prove to the business the value of data, right? So every time you build something, every time you give something to the business, you are responsible for dragging it out of them if you have to, why that has helped them, what it has helped them do, the value they get back from it, and then you feed that back in to get your funding. So you need to prove what you've done for the business, and not on a surface level either, right? So if you've got something and you're like, oh, well, it takes this person in finance like 10 hours a week to do it, you don't multiply that by 52 weeks and go, look what I've done, right? That is part of it. That is important. We've automated this. Excellent. What are they doing with those hours? What can they now do that they could never do before? Are we managing our debt better? Are we invoicing better? What are we doing alongside that, right? It's not just about the hours you save. It's about the value that you give back to the company. That's a whole different topic that we definitely can't cover in this. Deliver iteratively and incrementally. You need to add value every single time you deliver something. We do not do waterfall anymore. For those of us that might be still in the waterfall land, you can't afford to do it anymore. The business will not wait. And with the advent of AI, and there's been 600 AI talks today, probably. That is just, people think you can do things magic, right? So you have to add value every single time. It has to be iterative. You don't need to get it 100% right the first time you do it, okay? So build something, add to it, add to it, add to it, add to it. If you try to build a big thing all at once and it's going to take you 2 years, they're going to run out of patience. So break it up, do it iteratively. Track all of the value. I've already said that, not just the superficial value. So for example, we did something quite some time ago now in not my current company. We managed to reduce age debt. We didn't actually reduce age debt. We just reported it properly. But we managed, in that industry, which was regulated, for every pound of age debt we had over a certain number, we had to hold capital. So we had to have a fund of capital that we couldn't touch because it was in the age debt pot. So we redid the maths, basically, and we saved them in and around 15 million, not real money, 15 million pounds that they could then take out of this fund, and they used it for something else. So what we did was we said, right, well, you don't have to hold that anymore. Happy days. We've saved you 15 million pounds of dead money. And then we went to Treasury and we said, so when we give you this money, what are you going to do with it? What is that going to give back into the business? And we found out from them what they would do with the money and how that benefited the business and how much money we would bring in from there. So it wasn't just we've saved finance the dead money. We've also talked to Treasury and we know what they're going to do with it. So track it all, right? And sometimes, so many, many years ago in a company a while ago, a long time ago in a galaxy far away, we had Google as one of our biggest clients. And Google had 10, we were in translation, they had 10 suppliers for translation. And they came to us and they said, we're going down to 3. And everybody was like, whoa, we better be one of those 3 because they were worth a lot of money. And they said, in order to win this, they had all these hoops to jump to, but then they also said, you need to tell us something we don't know. And Google know quite a lot, but I can tell you that their translation department is shockingly shite at data, which was good for me because we weren't. And we were able to tell them something they didn't know. So we became one of their preferred suppliers. They still are. And what we had done is, before we had done all this, we went to sales and went, right, how much is this account worth? And it was in the tens of millions. And we said, if we do this and you can win this because we said we're going to tell them this, how much is it worth to you guys? And they were like, oh, I don't know, about 5%. And I was like, that'll do. And they were like, oh, it's very small. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is hundreds of millions. This is a lot of money. So 5% of that is fine by me. So we got them to agree up front in wooden dollar terms how much that work was worth to them, and they wrote it down. Make them write it down. Write that bit down. Make them write it down. So when we retained it and we grew our contract, because they went from 10 suppliers to 3 and we were the preferential one, the revenue leapt by, I think it was 150 million. And I got to say, do you remember you said 5% of that was ours? Now it's not ours, but we were able to say 5% of that revenue growth is as a direct result of what we've done with data. So make them write it down. And even if it seems like a small number of a big number is a very big number. So be nice to your funding. Culture and knowledge, really, really important. This is a hobby horse of mine, so apologies in advance because I get really excited about it. More excited than I am now, which seems difficult, but it's not. Data is a team effort. It is not a solo sport. It is a team effort. We have to work together, and it's not just the data team or the IT team or whoever, it's everybody, right? It's everyone across the whole business. Data is everybody's problem. Solution, one of those things. So you need to get the right mindset across the business. You need to get them to use the data. Again, if you build a lovely dashboard and they go in on a Monday morning and they go, oh, that's a nice shade of blue. And then they leave, what have you achieved? Not a lot, right? So you need to give them the right mindset. It's like, right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to check this KPI. If it's down, what am I going to do? Am I going to check my sales pipeline? And I'm going to check my operations? Where's the bottleneck? What do they do next? So they need the right mindset, and you're going to have to give it to them, because if they don't have it, they won't know the possibilities. So you're going to have to help them with that. Ensure data literacy where necessary. We do not all need to be statisticians like Aura. Aura's a great statistician. We do not all need to be statisticians, right? But they do need to understand data. They need to know the difference between mean and median. Please, can everybody learn the difference between mean and median? I mean, just that would make my day. But they don't need to know the details. They don't need to be able to do a random forest or any of that kind of stuff, but they do need to be able to read their data and know what it's telling them and know, oh, that's a blip. We need to investigate that. Or, oh, that's higher than I thought it was going to be. Where's the root cause, okay? And not everybody needs to be the same. They just need the right level for their job. Now, if they want to learn more, happy days, but just get them onto the right level. At the very basics, make sure they are all talking the same language. And I don't mean English. I mean that if somebody calls something a product or a customer, that everybody knows what that actually means. You'd be surprised how often it doesn't. And everybody, and I don't care who you are or what you do, everybody needs to embrace data. And you do anyway. So is there anyone in this room that does not have a mobile phone? Brilliant. You all use data every day. And I always say this to the business as well. They're like, we don't know how to use data. And I'm like, did you check the weather? Did you take a train? Did you check a timetable? You've all used data today. So we just need to relate it back to that. Resources, vitally important. We need the right resources across the business. And I'm not just talking about in the data team or in the IT. Again, I'm talking about the whole business. You need the right resources in the right places. You might need to upskill them. So my new company, we're going through a technology transformation at the minute. So we need to upskill people into the new technology. That's great. But even if you're upskilling in data literacy, you need to upskill them so that they know what they're doing. So train them and train them, I'm going to say considerately, right? So we do not employ people in the business to be data experts. That's our job, right? They don't need to be data experts. They just need to know what to do with it. So we have to recognize that we've all got different skill sets, and theirs are different for ours, but that's good. I mean, nobody in this room also wants me writing a prescription for drugs, because that won't end well either. So I don't do engineering and I don't do prescriptions. They're two things I don't do. But you need to make sure the business have the right things, right? Give them the right tools, please. Give them the right tools. So, you know, buying a technical platform is great, but they don't need to code, right? You can get a low-code platform if they need to, but give them the right tools to do their job, whatever their job happens to be, and it will be different at various levels of the organization. And then bear in mind, when you try to do something with data, you're going to need the business. So one of the things that I normally do when I'm resourcing and I'm putting a schedule together for, say, a piece of data or a data product, I also schedule the business resources. So I go out to the business and I go, this is my roadmap for 26. what year is it? 25. So this is, I normally am better at dates. So this is the roadmap for 2026. This is the resources I need on the data side. This is the IT infrastructure. And by the way, business, this is what I need from you. And you give that to the business and you say to them, you need to resource this for next year because we can't do our job without you. And what often happens is you resource all the technical stuff and you've got all your budget and you're great. And then you go to the business and you go, I need somebody for 3 days a week. And they go, ha, you're funny. And they just can't do it because they've got a day job and they've got loads of things to do, and you can't blame them for that either. So when you're doing your resources, take them into account. Let them know before they put their budget in. After is too late. Let them budget for you as well, and it will be much easier. But you need to be sure you schedule in the business resources, because nobody likes you turning up on a Monday morning and going, right, on Wednesday we're having an 8-hour workshop. And they're like, oh yeah, no, you're not. So be very careful with your resources and think more holistically, okay? So transform. Everything's transforming this weather. It's all moving, everything's upgrading. Before you transform, baseline what you've got. It sounds really simple. Us data people, and I'm including you all in this, we are shockingly bad at tracking our own KPIs, generally speaking, right? So baseline what you've got, because if you don't do that, you don't know how well you've done. End of story. Baseline what you've got and make sure that everybody knows where it is. And then you can track yourself against it, because sometimes you think, oh, I've not done great, until you look back and you see the mountain you've already climbed. And if you haven't baselined it, you can't see that. And it also feeds back into your funding requests and your resourcing requests, because you can prove what you've done. Determine your future straight. I don't know how many people I know have gone, we're going to change everything and we're going to start over here and we'll think about the rest of it later. And then they get to the later and they go, oh, they don't match. I can't actually connect A with B or C with D because I didn't think about it. So determine futures. This all sounds really common sense, right? Common sense is not very common. So determine your future state, identify your gaps, plan. And when you plan, if you're anything like me, I'm a little bit OCD, you'll be going, this is the plan, we're going to do it. Don't do that. It's never going to last for, like I normally do 3-5-year plans. If it changes, it changes. Don't worry about it. It'll happen. But, you know, the other worst thing you can do is going, this is my plan, and I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this, and then something goes wrong and you go, I'm still doing this. And then it doesn't work. And then you're like, I don't know what happened. And you're like, okay. So plan for the future, but be flexible, okay? I know change is difficult, and I'm OCD. Anyone that knows me knows that. I'm going to say slightly, that's not true. I'm also autistic, so I know when I plan something, I want it to happen. But you have to be ready for that thing to go wrong, because it will at some point. And I know some things have gone wrong, and I'm not going to point you out because that's not fair. But you know who you are. And then execute, right? So there is no point in spending hours planning and then spending the rest of the year talking about it. Just do it. Build something. Prove that you can do it. You have to execute. And as you're executing, continuously review what you're doing to make sure you're still going in the right direction. Because as I said, you know, today, this is the technology landscape we have. There could be a monumental breakthrough happening downstairs right now, and we're in here, so we don't know about it. And then you're like, oh, that would change everything if I could do that. Let it change. If it's better for you and the company, let it change. But review as you go along, so you know when you're going off course or if something's changed. And don't forget to deliver value. I know I'm harping on about it, but you will not get another set of funding, another set of sponsorship, another set of resources if you do not prove that what you've already done was worth it. And again, we come back to the don't do the waterfall thing. Nobody's ready for a 5-year big bang anymore. We just can't wait. So don't forget to keep delivering value. And this links in quite well, actually. Continuous iteration. Your data strategy, you are not going to write it in your first 100 days and have it for the next 20 years. Not going to happen, because things change, landscapes change. You do M&A, you buy companies go bust, the landscape. So, for example, being a licensed drug dealer, this week in the US, sales of paracetamol have tanked. Do not get me started. But like, Who could have seen that coming? I mean, if you could have predicted that, can I have the lot of numbers for next weekend? So, you know, it's not static. It won't stay static. Be ready for change. When the business changes, your data strategy has to change. And it depends on your business, whether you do 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plans. But even at that, you're going to have to change. So it's living, it's breathing, it changes. Changes as the business changes. So your business might go, do you know what? I'm not doing M&A anymore. I'm going to grow organically, or I'm going to, in our case, start growing weed in the garden because that's also a drug and we're going to legalize it. I didn't say that, if anybody asks. It changes as your data landscape changes. So if your strategy is to do one thing, and then all of a sudden we get this new tool and self-service is a much better option, then change it, right? Don't hang on to the old ways. It grows, it develops, it iterates, okay? So my message is don't set it in stone and go, that's it, for the next 5 years, this is what we're doing. It won't end well, I have to say. It will not end out. So, how am I doing? Okay, quite well, actually. It's not normal. Right, so this is for you guys, right? Data leaders need to be so much more than data people. Your chief data officer, your data leader, whatever you call them in your business, they are the only senior level exec that is required to know everything about the whole business and how it works. Not only that, but you're supposed to do your own resources, do your own budget, and your own scheduling, right? So as a data leader, you need to develop, and you know, I am constantly developing as well. You need to be strategic because it's important. You need to be fiscally responsible because money doesn't grow on trees. I wish it did. If anyone finds a money tree, can you let me know? You need to be persuasive. So you need to convince whoever it is to give you the money, the resources, and the time to do what it is you want to do. You need to do that. You need to be a diplomat. Anyone that knows me knows I'm about as subtle as a half brick in a sock. But I have been known to be diplomatic. You know, when it's like, well, do you think there's a better way to do that? And you're like, you're crying inside, but you have to be diplomatic. You need to be visionary, right? So if you've got a low data maturity organization, they have no clue what data can do for them. So you need to give them that vision. So first of all, you have to think about it. It's like I am not planning weed gardens. You need to think about it, and then you need to convince them. So you need to be visionary. It's like, what can data do for this business, this company, this strategy? You do need to be empathetic because it's not easy, right? Data is complicated. I get it. So you need to be empathetic of the people that don't get it, and you need to help them understand, right? You need to be resilient. Back to the change thing. I mean, quite honestly, having kids has made me resilient enough, but you need to be able to change. You need to be able to do all that stuff. You need to be adaptable. Back to my nothing set in stone. But you also need to be business oriented. So you need to have a business brain. You need to think about return on investment and IRR and all those wonderful finance. Have we any accountants? They know, talk to them. They'll help you. You need to be business oriented. You need to understand, you know, what is your business measured by? Is it gross profit? Is it net profit? Is it loss ratio? Is it combined ratio? What is it? What are you measured by? You need to get it. And you need to be innovative, primarily because the landscape is moving so fast that what you know today is not what you're going to know tomorrow. That is just the way it works. So you need to be thinking outside of the box. If there is a box, you need to be going, how can I make this different? How can I bring people with me? But this is what a data leader needs to be. You need to be a lot. It's my new catchphrase, a lot. Everything's a lot. You need to be all of these things in your journey. But I firmly believe that it is well within all of our grasps, and we can, I mean, if I can do it, quite honestly, you guys are laughing. So that is it. Yay. Questions? Have I got time for questions? Where's the lady? I have 5 minutes. Ooh, this doesn't happen very often. If you know questions, you can go get your beer early. I mean, I honestly don't mind. Any questions? No? Yes? There's a man with a microphone behind you. He's lurking.
Oh, thank you. I don't know if it's working. I know the talk started with that we've already got our data strategy sorted. But really, and this might be a stupid question actually for all you guys in the room, what tangibly is that in terms of documentation, things that we can actually show? Because I know data strategy seems quite abstract sometimes.
Yeah.
So to you, what really is, what's needed definitely to make sure that you can go, tick, I've got data strategy?
Okay, so it's going to differ. So how long is a piece of string question? It's going to differ depending on your industry. But what I would have is a slide deck that summarizes it for execs, board, whatever, that you can talk through. And then underneath that, you need a more detailed document to say, right, this is what I actually mean about all of these things. If you search the web for data strategy template, you won't find a good one. For anyone else that's put one up there, sorry, you won't find a standard one. There isn't one, right? Everybody is slightly different. But for me, in a data strategy, you need to have your mission and your vision. They need to be really clear. You need to have some operating principles, and you need to absolutely link them to your business strategy. So if you want to put, I don't know, a data lake in the cloud, great. Why? What is it is that going to enable? And you need to clearly link it to the business strategy and say, I am doing this because you, dear business, you want to do this, and they link really quickly. So you have to link them, and then you can have your principles.
Push back on the business if they haven't clearly articulated their own strategy. That
is a problem, and and that does happen. Any exec members here? So that can be a problem, and in which case, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find out from each of the execs what it is they're sponsoring in any given year. Now, it might not be strategic, right? And you might look at that and go, seriously, is that what you're going to do this year? But if they're the people signing off your budget and that's what they want to do, that's what you got to do. But you can kind of go back to them and say, look, this is the data strategy. I think it enables this. And see how they go. But it is a problem. I've been in several companies where there has been no business strategy, and it's harder, but not impossible.
Thanks. Cheers.
Any? Oh! Hang on. There's a load now. Who was first over here somewhere? Who stuck their hand up? Now you're all pretending you didn't stick your hand up.
So you talk there a lot about pushing from data into business.
Yep.
But I've heard of talks today where it's the other way around. So how do you educate C-suite and those people that have to set the business direction?
Yep.
So they're understanding even what to ask of a data team?
Carefully, especially if they're paying your bills. If you can have it the other way around, that is hands up the best situation you can get. A lot of them just aren't there yet. They try, but they're not quite there. If you're going to educate the C-level and the board, you need to do it with a lot of empathy. Hence, I said empathy. Because at the end of the day, these people, they're really good at what they do, right? It's their job. They're really good at it. They just don't get data. So you have to do it. I like to do it, anyone that knows me, I like to do it through playing games because I'm essentially 3. So I create quite a number of games that I get them to go through. So logic puzzles, games like that. And it's actually educating them. And they don't realize it's educating them until it's too late. And then they're like, oh, we learned something. You just have to be quite careful with them. But if you can have a business that knows what to ask, keep them. Anyone else? Oh, there's some down here. How am I doing on time? Where's my official timekeeper? She's not even here to do time. She's a statistician.
Hi. Coming back to your continuous iteration.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a dichotomy going on where funding is fixed and continuous iteration. How do you sell that to the C-suite?
Is it fixed though? That is my question. So
well, it's an old school mentality, isn't it?
So loads of people say it's fixed, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody comes, so say you've got your budget for the year and you've got all the foundational stuff in, right? And then marketing come to you, for example, and they go, we've had a brilliant idea, we want this. And you go, right, well, what will that do for you? And they tell you, and you go, great, money. So you can work with them too. So they will have budget, right? So you generally do get a pot and then you have to figure it out. But if you're going to work with the business and they really, really want something and they can articulate the value, make them pay for it. If you can. I love spending other people's money. This is the last one. Sorry for these people.
Of the 6
different steps,
in implementing or landing the strategy, which in your experience is the hardest? What's the most challenging to land?
It depends. It's a depends question. So a lot of people will say funding. However, not my last organization, the one before, funding was really easy. The problem was getting the business buy-in because they were really busy. Currently where I am, funding is an issue. The business buy-in is not an issue. So it's going to vary based on your organization, unfortunately. And it's all practice. It's all practice. Thank you, peoples. Everybody go enjoy a drink.